Hi, everybody. We are calling now from the World Federation of Elite Martial Artists around the world. In honor of Juneteenth, we have a guest celebrity martial artist today, Grandmaster Fred Simon. One of the first African-American black belts in the United States of America. His direct instructor was no other than Grandmaster Jhoon Rhee. And today, he is going to share with us stories and understandings of what the times were like with it. He went through the humanity of the arts, how martial artists all work together, and how martial artists in the future can continue to make a difference and educate everyone around them. Grandmaster Fred Simon.
Yes, sir.
Joining us. On board, we have Grandmaster Khalid Raheem from Kentucky as well, our WFM representative from there. And together, we're all going to work together to enlighten the world.
Greetings. Good morning. Top of the morning.
Good morning to everyone.
So, Grandmaster Simon, what year did you start martial arts?
I started actually at end of my service, in service a little bit in 1956, 57. But actually, I got a taste of the martial arts when we were kids and living in New York. Our custodian, being of Asian descent, would take the fellows that lived in the apartment, and he would have us exercise and then train. And I didn't know what it was being from Texas. I didn't know anything. Not that just being from Texas, but I didn't know what it was. And it worked out. And so that was actually the beginning of my start. But then I came out of service in 58 and 59. And I still stayed involved with it. And then when it came to my hometown, Beaumont, Texas, I said, oh, well, good, I'll get into class. But then I had to remember one thing, that everything was segregated. And so when I went to go to the class, the first thing, we'll take you in, but you have to come to the back door. And I said, and then bring your friends. I said, well, I won't be coming to the back door, and I won't be bringing any friends. But I was coming from myself. And so it worked out like that. That's the way it was. And then I met a person, a very young man, Richard Sapp, who had a studio apartment in Houston. He's Caucasian, and he took me in. Went in with I went with a group of fellows, and they were Caucasians from Beaumont, and we went there to train, and it was in Shotokan. And I stayed with him until he moved out of Houston, which was about maybe a year. And then I met Grandmaster Rhee just by hearing his name. And he was at Rice University in 62, 61 to 62. And I went to, a group of us went there for to see his rank test and to become a part of it. But we had one thing that was going, we knew being in the service and training, and I knew combat and knew how to fight and everything, but didn't know his forms. And the first form, which was Chun-Ji, which is Chun-Ji. So we fought, went and took the test, and he met us at the end, and he told me, you know no form. That's what he was saying. You know no form, but you fight well, but I can't pass you until you learn forms. And so we were there, and we had no instructor. And he asked us, we told him we didn't have an instructor. And he said, what work you do, what work you do, what work you do? And I taught school. So he said, since you teacher, you teach class. And that I started teaching class with permission from him, as you could say, a no belt. Right. All the way up. And so he took me to the corner and took all of us and took us all the way through Chun-Ji. Like about 5, maybe 6 or 7, 8 times, you know. And then he said, you go back home, you learn Chunji, and I come back and I teach and I test you again, and I will test you higher, you know. So we were a whole year. We were out without. We trained a whole year before we went back, and with the basics in Chunji. So we had it down to a pat, you know. And that was my first test, and I've been with Grandmaster Rhee since that time all the way up until. But I still figure I'm still with him because he was a part of my life, and he took me in and he turned me over to, told me about Pat Burleson, and Pat Burleson, that was in the 60s, and also Pat Burleson did the same thing. I was looking for the back door, and he said there was no back door. And we had been in a beautiful friendship all the way up, which is, the friendship continues now. He's very ill and everything, and but we still converse on the phone quite often, you know.
Yes, sir. And then, you know, if you could, for somebody from my generation, it's very hard to even comprehend that type of life during that time period. So, you know, you had told me, we were at dinner once, and you had told me about the back door, and I was like, why on earth would you knock on the back door? And you're like, son, listen, you probably won't understand, but times were different. And you explained that made no sense to me. Why on earth would somebody have to knock on the black door? And you said, well, it was because if somebody had color to them, they couldn't walk through. And that just blew my mind. And then you told me that Pat Burleson said, no, you walk through the front door. And then I talked to other people, and they said, well, that martial arts school was one of the only integrated places there in Texas. And if anybody had a problem with that, they could take it up with Pat Burleson.
Well, you see, Pat Burleson was like this. I went into the front door.
Yes, sir.
I trained with his students. And his students, being in the South, being as they were, and they were all white, and they said, little fellow came up and said, you know, we have a fraternity, it's like a fraternity here. You have to be initiated in before, you have to be accepted in before you train. Well, Pat Burleson told him he had to go somewhere and close out the class, and he told me he'd see me tomorrow. Well, before I went the next day, I went there, and I told him, I said, his student said, I would have to be accepted in your class before I, you know, come in, or whatever the person told me. And so I don't want to, you know, cause any conflict or anything. So we went in, and we stood did the whole thing, stood attention, and Pat Burleson said, and he did it like this, he said, this is Mr. Fred Simon from Beaumont, Texas, his instructor and my instructor the same, Master Jhoon Rhee. He said, and Mr. Simon will be with us this summer, because I was visiting with my sister-in-law, my wife's sister, and husband that summer, since school was out. So anyway, he said, and he'll be with us this summer. He said, and there are those of you that may not like that and wouldn't want this, so I'll understand that. So you may leave, you may leave now, and don't come back.
Oh my goodness gracious, that's awesome.
He didn't say don't come back. He didn't say and come back after the summer. He said, and don't come back.
Darn straight.
And I said, golly. And I was asking myself, I said, who? In the front, I said, who is this white man? You know, is he really white? What is he? You know, he's doing this. And then he invited me and my wife to go on on a picnic with him that weekend. And we went to the park. This place where we went there, it said, no color allowed. And Pat Burleson ripped the sign off the gate.
Oh my, good for him.
Yeah.
Darn straight.
He ripped the sign off the gate, and we went in and played volleyball and everything. Just had us a good time. He says, there's no such thing like this. So that was, introduction to being with him was a whole lot of difference in saying getting on a bus at home years back before they changed the segregated rules.
Right.
You could get on the bus and you have to walk under the sign and sit behind the sign because the front of the sign said white, the back said color. And that's where you sit. Just like Rosie Parks sat in the bus and didn't get up. Well, you would get to the bus. If the bus was empty and the sign would be in the middle, so you sit behind the sign. And if the bus was, the bus driver knew they were going to have the sign was pushed back, further back so the whites would be comfortable. And people of color would sit behind the sign and fill up the seats, and then they'd end up standing up riding the bus, And that's the way it was.
That's crazy. That is crazy. Like if I want to go eat with Khalid, I'm gonna call Khalid. We're gonna go eat. We go hang out. It's just how it is, right?
Yeah.
Right. We're like one. We're the same cat. We might look a little different, but we're the same cat, right? We're the same person. And
that wasn't the case in the South. That was the law in the South. Segregation. It meant equal, as you know what it means. It means equal. So you were equal. No, you were not. It didn't mean equal. It meant separate.
Fair.
Because it wasn't equal.
Fair but not equal. Yes, sir.
That's right. It was separate but not equal.
Right. Wow.
And because there were places, when I was like a kid working and go to place, working for a company, and we'd be driving and taking, it was a place, go to a restaurant, and where the driver could go in the place and he could sit up there and eat, and if they said, they would say, what if, they wouldn't ask me, did I want to eat anything, but I would just go back around the back and go in the kitchen and get a sandwich, which I wouldn't do. And it wasn't being, anything, like you said, how you would put it, being all upset about it because I knew what the system was.
Knew what the time was, right.
That's right. So it wasn't a thing of me saying I wish I could go in there and eat, because I didn't wish I could go in there and eat because I would want to be wanted. Because even in service, it was the same way at the time I was in service. My dearest friend, John Harmon from Wisconsin, and I went to St. Louis, Missouri, and he, being a Caucasian, we went into the rat skiller, and I thought nothing of it. And we sat down, and the manager, the bartender, said, a waiter said, I can serve you drinks, but I can't serve you any food. So next we got up and we went to East St. Louis. And then I walked in the place. I said, ma'am, do you serve everybody? She said, if you're hungry.
That's right.
And we sat there, John and I sat there and ate the best barbecue you wanted to eat at that time,
That's right.
But in the service, it was the same way. At Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, when you got off, everything was integrated, not equal, but it was integrated. But yet and still, when you got off that post, everything was segregated,
Right.
So that's the way it was. Now, in the martial arts, as being with people, even during that time when we actually started going to tournaments and being together, you didn't know, you may have had the strange feeling of how people felt, but they didn't show it at the tournaments, other than they would pick maybe the person that they really liked, their friend was going to win. I remember so many tournaments I went to as a beginner, and I figured I had won, but I didn't win because of my color.
Right, that's right.
Wow.
And I mean, actually won, and I wasn't doing it trying to knock people out or doing anything. I was doing just the way I had been trained. I was trained and everything, but I couldn't win because of my color. And that went on for years. And then I told my students, I said, don't feel bad if you're not winning. I say, because it's because of me. And all my students basically were all Caucasians.
Right.
And so it was the idea of a person of color being the instructor.
And associated. Right.
And they wasn't going to win. Their students wasn't going to win. But we made it so difficult for them, they couldn't do nothing but win.
Right.
Because we were precision with everything the way Grandmaster Rhee wanted it to be, and the way I wanted it to be. And I could say, truly, as being a school teacher with them, and these kids were in my class because when we integrated the schools, and I went over to the school, then they end up joining my class, you know.
Right.
Yeah, and you told me you were also one of the first, you taught at one of the very first integrated schools. You're one of the very first teachers.
Right. I was first integrated male teacher in the elementary school.
Wow.
And then my wife and I integrated First United Methodist Church in Beaumont. And before then, in the 60s, was the first one to integrate the Little Theater doing Showboat. And I was a Old Man River singer. I was a soloist. I did Old Man River. That was my song. I got a scholarship going to college, but doing that before the board and the fraternity and everything like that. And you see, we had for years, months, and days when we would have the fair, the Texas State Fair in Dallas. It was segregated, and then they had one day for the people of color to go, and then they have all the colleges to go. Well, I won there, against all the black colleges in Texas and Louisiana, you know, but. Everything was segregated. The South was segregated, and you can say, in some terms, it's open, but the attitudes in some have not changed, you know.
Right.
But it's still beautiful. My church is beautiful. In fact, now I teach my classes at my church now. And I've been there a few years because I got out of having the studio and everything, and then my church is very large, and so I'm back now. We started back Monday after the pandemic, you know.
Right. Yes, sir. And
but,
you had told me you're 87 years old. You're out there teaching class. That's amazing. That's awesome.
What do they say in this song? Age is just a number.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
You know, and so I put it like this. I went back to class and started. I told my student, who's been with me like 20-some years or more, I said, do you realize I don't feel any pain today? He said, it's the adrenaline from going back to class, you know.
That's right.
I said, I really don't. And I said, maybe it was that big, good steak we had over the weekend, you know. But it was that. Yeah. So the whole deal is, you know, you deal with what you have to deal with. Now, Beaumont, like any other city, was better to me than any other southern city because we had everything that everybody else. We went through things like race riots and the race route, I could say, it was short term in the sense they sent down to break the race route up. At first, it was supposed to be a group of soldiers going to come down, black soldiers coming down with their tanks and everything from Louisiana, but they were stopped. You know, they sent 2 Texas Rangers, one on one side of Beaumont, one on the other side. We had no more trouble. It was just the Texas Rangers were just that powerful, and when they said something, they didn't say maybe. It was a direct thing, like the curfew is now. If you're out on the curfew and you're out for trouble, so we'll shoot you.
Wow.
And they weren't talking to the people of color. They talking to everyone.
Oh.
Everyone.
Gotcha.
And they had a group on one side of the track, and the other group lived on the other side of the track. That's both, and so we had a pay orchard, and then you had the white group on the one side, and the pay orchard was the people of color. And they decided the people of whites were going to come over the track and just tear up the other side, and the other side, what we call the pay orchard, and they were all Cajun, out of Louisiana, out of Beaumont and everything. And so they waited for him, and the police, the Texas Ranger Gonzalez told them and said, "You don't go any further because everybody, you're going to have a bloodbath." And then he told the whites, he said, "Well, if you insist on going across the track, then just go ahead and be at your own mercy." They didn't come across the track. And that was it. I was a little kid at the time. My grandmother.
I can't even imagine. I am so grateful and thankful for the changes you guys have made in the school system. For Jhoon Rhee, all of that, because I grew up in a world. I've been in martial arts since I was 10. Right, I was beat up by a gang, and had it been for the arts, I would not be talking to people right now at all. My personality would be completely different. I am so thankful and grateful to Grandmaster Rhee and all the instructors there, because they brought us up in martial arts. In martial arts, we have a code. Right. We all work together, we fight together, we stick together, we train together, we sweat together. Like, I was brought up in that, so I never thought that this was an issue. And then I have one lady I signed up, she's an African-American lady, and part of the National Zoo is dedicated to her and her husband. And when Obama was getting elected, she came and stuck a sticker on me, right? I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, "Ma'am, why is this such a big deal?" And she goes, "What do you mean, why is it such a big deal? Don't you understand that, there was segregation?" I was like, "Ma'am, you're not that old. I mean, that must have been a long time ago." And she gave me an education. She says, "No, it was like 1960s. I was like, the 60s?
Yeah,
like with the hippies, the 60s time? And so she took me through the whole history of it and explained to me that why she never thought it was going to happen in her time. And then I started to look outside the dojo, right? You start looking outside the martial arts school, right? And then now it's crazy what we see in the world. Because in the dojo, we all have honor, respect, discipline, focus, working together. We don't have color issues unless it's the color of your belt. You better earn that rank, no matter who you are. And that's it. I've never had to see that before, but recently, with everything that's happened in the news, and now all the Asian hate that's going on, you wonder what happened to the world. And then if we live in our world where we work together and have a martial arts humanity, well, it looks like we need to start influencing the rest of the world. In order to do that, start making the world aware that stuff like this has occurred, and by no shape under our watch is going to ever happen again. Yeah, so let's push our black belts to run for positions. Where's our black belt for president? We need a black belt that's a president.
Come on. It's so beautiful. Like you said, being together with martial artists at the time, feeling was there, even though it was not segregated anymore, but it was still segregated. You can understand what I'm saying. The feeling was still there, but the martial artists being together, and then when you left that group and went back to your home, you say, I'm back here with this stuff again, you know. You know, I mean, you still, you everything was open, but the feelings was not like the feelings that you had with the group of people that you were with in the martial arts.
Right.
I mean, to me, it wasn't there. I mean, you knew that everything was open for you to go anywhere you want, but you still was not really wanted there. But with the martial arts people, you had the open thing, and the closest people I had with me, backing me up, I could say on my side, or right there with me, like Pat Burleson, George Minshew, Joe Alvarado, Alan Steen, Skipper Mullins, Billy Singletary, who's still with me. Billy Singletary started with me. Billy Singletary, Sammy Parrish, Gary Jones. Gary Jones and Sammy got their black belts with me, and then they went to teach the Grandmastery in D.C. and Florida. And that was in the 70s, back then, when they got their belts. Right. But Billy is still here. We back in class together again, you know.
Right.
He's been with me like 50-some years, you know.
Wow.
But this whole thing is, like you were saying, martial arts people were completely different than the rest of the people in getting along. When I went visiting California, I went to a studio there. His name was Master Please, I do believe. But anyway, I went to his studio, and when we get through, I was saying, well, I guess I go home, because even there I was the only one of fellow. And when I got there, the class was dismissed, and I'm going on there, going back to my sister-in-law's home, and they would say, hey, we're going out and have a beer. Don't you want to come join us? And I'm saying, I haven't heard nothing like that before, you know. Right. And so we were together, you know, a lot of times after class. And same way here now. But very fortunate to have beautiful people in Beaumont of another color, I could say. I hate to say things like white, black. Black in my day was a bad word to say. You understand? People call them, they say, well, the black guy, the black here. Well, in my day, as a kid, you said somebody, you little black, you say, what did you say? And tell your little butt up, you know. And we didn't have things that, you use the word color, the Negro, like that. But in teaching school, when schools integrated, it was not an easy deal. You understand?
Can imagine.
I was there in the classroom before they integrated the children. They integrated the teachers. So that meant I was in my classroom with all little white students, parents looking dead down the line at me, waiting for me to do anything they didn't like so they could get rid of me. The principal didn't like it, and the principal said, I don't like this integration thing and everything. But I said, well, that wasn't your call. The government called that. I said, all I want you to do is treat me professional, and I'll treat you professional, you know.
That's it. And you went from that, like in the regular school system, to going at night teaching martial arts class where everybody's yes or no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, please, thank you, and welcome, and thank you, you know?
Right.
What a huge difference between like public school and a martial arts school.
Well, the beautiful thing about, like I said, about my city, and I'm really happy about it, that when things were going wrong in the school system, I went to my Caucasian parent I went to, the Park family. Big, I always call them cousin Big Jim and Sissy Park. And they live right by the school because the school's out in the very wealthy district. And I told her, I said, the principal accused said I did this, in which I hadn't done. And the first thing is Mrs. Park asked me, she said, Sissy Park was there, she said, did you do it? I said, no, I didn't do it. And she said, I asked her for a lawyer. And so she said, did you do it? Did you do what they said? I said, no, I didn't. And so she gave me her lawyer. Her lawyer was busy at the time. He gave me a lawyer. And surprising to the school, we went there with a lawyer. And the superintendent of the school district was there. And the files that the other people had filed against me, we did a file back on them. And they dropped the charges. You know, and the principal tried to find some excuse for me to do something, so he then had me to go take my math course over again. I went and took the math course over with a reluctance, but my wife said, you're going to do that. You're not going to fight the system like that. And so I did, and then the instructor had to go on a seminar for a week, and he said, well, we'll have someone to take over the class, and he gave me the class to take over. So he wrote a letter back to the superintendent and told him I didn't need any math training. You know, I taught this class while he was away, you know. And that's how things work. And he was Caucasian, the instructor Caucasian, and he did that, and he put me in charge of a class. And things worked out beautiful. Like I said, Beaumont, even though we still had our little, we had up and downs in a lot of things.
You guys were paving the way.
The people that came to my aid were those people over the white families, you know, and white people like join the symphony, join the opera, join the interfaith choir, join the church and everything like that, you know. It was the first, but I loved the music. I loved everything about it. I had a scholarship in music, so quite naturally I wanted to be a part of it, you know. And being accepted in there it was just like the karate. I was accepted in that thing, and like in the YMCA, when the band told him, he said, if he's not going to be in the class, then you're not going to have a class. We're not going to vote on him to be in it. And that was the way it was, and that's the way it's been, you know. So I've had a good life with the martial arts, ups and downs, you know, and going. The worst thing is back then, that time, going to places and staying in hotels and everything. But I stayed all my students stayed in the best of hotels. We all stayed in the best of hotels, and I had my travels with the children.
Yes.
And they were all the white kids, all little beautiful children, all still my babies, and we still talk to each other now. And they've been with now. I'm like a granddaddy, a great granddaddy. They're married, they have children. Their children have children. You know,
I've done a lot of help with the AOK Strong and the AOK team in Texas, and a great deal of AOK tradition and martial artists there are all from your martial arts lineage. So thank you so much for empowering such a great team of the next up and coming martial artists with your philosophies, your beliefs, your determination, because you guys were changing the world, changing the world in a world, and we keep climbing that step forward. We keep moving it that one next step forward.
That's right. Well, that's the way it should be. We got to keep on. I thought about after the pandemic, I basically thought about. I said, well, I'll just stop this, and I couldn't stop.
Can't stop. You can't stop. It's in you.
You can't. When they say something's in your system, they don't realize how deep in your system it's in. You know.
That's right.
It's so much a part of you. You live and breathe it.
Part of your DNA.
That's right. That's what it is. And I appreciate every minute of it.
Yeah.
That I'd be so happy to go to class and do everything, you know.
Yes, sir.
But I really thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak, you know.
Well, thank you, sir, for all coming
Yes,
together.
Yes, sir.
I plan on getting you on the phone again and sharing some more stories because we all on a time limit. We don't know. It could be tomorrow. Could be today. Later today. Could be in a year.
That's right. Well,
we're trying to make today matter. We're trying
the good thing is happening to me is that I'm going to Wisconsin on for September the 4th,
Yes,
and I will enter into the Jazz Festival. I'll be singing.
Awesome.
I'll be singing the blues in Winneconne, Wisconsin.
Wow.
Okay?
Get some of your films out. We'll put it up.
All right. They'll have all those good musicians there, and it'll be fun. With my friend I met in the service 50-some years ago now, John Harmon, and we'll be doing all of that, you know.
That's right.
But there's nothing as beautiful as being a martial artist.
That's right.
To me, there's nothing as beautiful because you'll have your ups and downs, but with a grandmaster instructor like Grandmaster Jhoon Rhee, having taught me and then having taught school and brought about such beautiful discipline, you can't beat it with an ugly stick, you know.
Yeah.
And I feel so good.
He definitely taught us about unification.
That's right. What it is. And I thank you so very much.
Well, sir, thank you for joining us today. We have a young man on here from Woodbridge, Virginia, Chris Frazier. He's one of the new up-and-comers on the WFM.
Greetings, Chris.
Good to see you, Chris. Chris, this is Grandmaster Fred Simon. He's one of the first African-American black belts in the United States of America. He just took us through some of the challenges he faced and how the martial arts world evolved, all came together, and some of the great martial artists that didn't believe in any segregation or believe in humanity and how they worked together to inspire a great many other people. So we're trying to take all that knowledge forward so we can all individually and collectively continue to make a difference and inspire the world toward a better humanity, right? A better humanity, because that's what us martial artists represent, is a better humanity. So guys, thank you so much, Grandmaster Fred Simon. Thank you.
Well, you're more than welcome. Thank you for considering even talking to me, okay?
Oh, yes, sir. I got a lot of love for you, sir. You've inspired me and shared so much information with me that I didn't even know ever occurred. And with that knowledge, I will promise you I will do my best to try to make a difference in this world with the time that I have. So
young and you're beautiful, so thank you so very much.
All right, guys. I'm going to go run back to teaching karate camp. So I'll see you guys soon.
Where's your camp?
All right, everybody. Happy Juneteenth or whatever, okay?
Yes, sir. Happy Juneteenth, guys. Enjoy the day. Inspired.
Yes, sir.
Yes, all right, the baby. Take care. Love you very much.
Yes, sir.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Peace and blessings.